For this video, I'll be using Hobbie's Honey Bunny Chenille yarn in Candyfloss, but you can use whatever yarn you want. A different type of yarn will only influence the size and texture of your project. And for this specific yarn, I'm going to be using a 5mm hook. But again, if you're using a different yarn, your hook might be smaller or bigger. As always, I'm going to use a pair of scissors to cut off my yarn when I'm finished with my project, and a trusty stitch marker because we're working in the round for this pattern, so you're going to want to mark the last stitch of each round as we're going along. To start the first part of your heart plushie, you're going to want to do a magic circle. As always, I'm doing a double magic circle, but you can use whatever technique you want. Some people like doing a simple magic circle. Some people like to chain 2 and single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So you do whatever you feel like is best for you. And for the first round, we're going to do 6 single crochets into that magic circle. Once you're done, you're going to need to secure your magic circle. Since I did a double magic circle, I'm going to pull on the bottom loop first to secure the first loop, and then I'm going to pull on the end of the yarn to secure my magic circle fully. Here I'm just grabbing my stitch marker and I'm marking the last stitch of each row, and you're going to see me do that for every row that we're working on. And for round 2, we're going to increase all around, so you're going to do 2 single crochets in each single crochets from the first round, and we're going to end up with 12 single crochets at the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to do 1 increase followed by 5 single crochets, and then another increase followed again by 5 single crochets, and we're going to end up with 14 single crochets at the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to do an increase followed by 6 single crochets, and then another increase followed by 6 single crochets, and we're going to end up with 16 single crochets at the end of round 4. For rounds 5 and 6, we're going to do 16 single crochets. So we're going to end up with 16 single crochets at the end of round 6. Here I'm about to do my last single crochet of round 6, and once I'm done with that single crochet, I'm going to fasten off. And this little part that we just did is one of the 2 top parts of the heart, so you're gonna wanna make a second part just the same. But once you're done with the other one, you don't want to fasten off because we're actually going to start crocheting both of them together. So go ahead and pause this video and repeat rows 1 through 6. So you'll have a second part just like this one, and I'll meet you back here once I did the same. Alright, once you're done, you should have 2 pieces like this. And like I said, these are actually the 2 top parts of the heart. So at this point, we're not fastening off this second piece because we're actually going to start crocheting them both together to form the peak of the heart. To attach both parts together, you're going to want to insert your hook directly in the first stitch from the last row of the first part that we did, just like I'm doing here, and we're going to start single crocheting directly into the first piece. So for round 7, we're going to single crochet all around both pieces, and we're going to end up with 32 single crochets at the end of round 7. I just want to mention, once you arrive at the middle on the other side, there's going to be a hole between 2 pieces. So to avoid that a little bit, we're just going to do 1 decrease, and this is going to act as 1 single crochet basically for that round. But you're going to want to insert your hook in the first single crochet, the next single crochet on the piece, and then the next single crochet on the other piece. And this is going to be 1 decrease that's going to bring both pieces together a little bit and basically avoid having too big of a hole between the 2 pieces. You're still going to have a small hole probably, but we're going to fix that at the end. It's really no problem. And once you're done with that small decrease, you can keep doing single crochets all around for round 7. For round 8, we're going to start decreasing. So we're going to do 14 single crochets followed by 1 decrease, and then another 14 single crochets followed by another decrease, and we're going to end up with 30 single crochets at the end of round 8. You're probably going to notice as you're watching me crochet these rounds that when I'm doing a decrease, I'm actually going only through the front loops of each single crochets. These are called invisible decreases, and I always do my decreases this way because it makes them more invisible, just like the name suggests, but it just makes my work look a little bit more neat. And I don't know why in this video this yarn was a little bit hard to work with, so if you're seeing me struggle while I do my decreases, that's why. Trying to fit my hook through the front loops only was a little bit hard at times. For round 9, we're going to do 13 single crochets followed by 1 decrease, and then another 13 single crochets followed by another decrease, and we're going to end up with 28 stitches at the end of round 9. round 10, we're going to do 12 single crochets followed by 1 decrease, and then another 12 single crochets followed by another decrease, and we're going to end up with 26 stitches at the end of round 10. For round 11, we're going to do 11 single crochets followed by 1 decrease, and then another 11 single crochets followed by another decrease, and we're going to end up with 24 stitches at the end of round 11. For round 12, we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 6 times around, and we're going to end up with 18 stitches at the end of round 12. Then at this point, I forgot to mention in the beginning, but you're gonna need poly-fill or polyester filling, and you're gonna want to fill up your heart as you go. So I'm not gonna show you every time, but every 1 or 2 rounds, I'm going to keep stuffing my heart to make sure it's nice and stuffed. For round 13, we're going to do 4 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 3 times around, and we're going to end up with 15 stitches at the end of round 13. For round 14, we're going to do 3 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 3 times around, and we're going to end up with 12 stitches at the end of round 14. For round 15, we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by 1 decrease 3 times around, and we're going to end up with 9 stitches at the end of round 15. And for round 16, which will be the last round for our heart plushie, we'll do 1 single crochet followed by 1 decrease 3 times around, and we'll end up with 6 stitches at the end of round 16. Once you're done, you can just fasten off any way you like. I just slip stitch in the next stitch, pull the yarn through, and then I secure it and cut my yarn. And we're going to use the yarn end to weave through the last row of our heart, but you don't need a super long piece of yarn, so I'm just cutting a small one here. And I always use a yarn needle to weave in my yarn end at the end of a project, but you could also use your crochet hook to guide the yarn through the stitches if you don't have a yarn needle. And I'm simply going to weave my yarn through the front loops of the stitches from the last round that we just did. And once I'm done, I pull on it gently to close up the hole at the bottom of the heart. Now I left this footage here just to show you guys how I secure my yarn at the end of a project. So I just weave it anywhere on the heart here, and I'm gonna do a couple knots just to secure everything nicely. And after that, you'll see that I'm going to weave my yarn all the way at the top of the heart where we left that hole in the beginning. And I'm just gonna weave around the hole and pull on the yarn gently to close up the hole. And I will also do a couple knots there to make sure that nothing moves. And there you have it, your simple and cute heart plushie pattern. It came out super nice, and like I said, you guys can use any yarn that you want. I'm just showing you here that I first did it with cotton yarn, so either or will work. You'll just have a different size and texture to your heart. But overall, I hope you guys like this tutorial. I, for one, am super happy with the results. It's super customizable, so you guys can do whatever you want with it. Please tag me in your creations if you make this for Valentine's Day. But for now, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!